Right now, we are here with my sister, Morgan and Jamie Harper. Welcome to Atlanta Live.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having blessed us so much tonight, and I know we're going to be hearing so much more. You know, when you guys say my sister, are you guys talking about each other? It's like, hey, that's my sister. How did that name come out?
Yeah, well, we are biological sisters. We're 2 years apart. I'm 17.
And I'm 19.
Yeah,
so.
and she's Morgan, and I'm Jamie Griggs. And I kind of came up with the name my sister. Actually, my mom and I came up with it. And we were calling my sister because our parents are pastors and we were homeschooled, so we were raised really close, really tight. And so biologically, you know, we have that thing. And then academically, you know, the only two people in your entire school, you have nothing to do but get along. Yeah. And so we have that way that we're connected. And also just we have a kind of a rough medical past. When we were 13, 15, roughly, we were being tested for a fatal disease, and the test results came back negative. However, but through that time, like, that's when we started playing instruments, and that's when we really realized that, you know, we've been singing our whole lives, but that's when we realized that, oh, this is like big deal. Like, you know, God's really bringing something out of this. And so we just kind of we call ourselves my sister as kind of like a way that God brought us together spiritually, you know, and as sisters in generally. And through that, I have a condition called Tourette syndrome. But however, I know that, you know, even though I know that God brings blessings out of the things that you have to deal with in life. And so that's in a shoebox. There's like 80 million reasons why, but that's like in a shoebox. Those are some of the reasons why we are called my sister. So
there's so much depth to the music that you do, and then there's not a usual sound. You know, you can't really put you in a shoebox according to the music industry standards, because you really don't fit just one particular area. You know, I was looking at y'all's bio and it said contemporary, folk, and gospel, in the opposite order from what I just said. But when I heard you, I said, contemporary, folk, gospel, you know, because you're all of that. And what is really neat is that you're giving word, like my husband was saying, as you're doing it. And then, you know, I don't know if I was coming out of the ladies' room. Of course, you already know there's meeting in the ladies' room. I heard somebody say, y'all don't do that. But I heard somebody say that you wrote it, and then you came over and said she actually wrote it. Talk to us about when you hear God say, "Now write this, say this." How does that happen in all the things that you do? And I know you all come from a musical family, so tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I started writing really around the same time I started talking. We started school at a very, very early age, so there was always notebooks and paper and paintbrushes lying around the house, so you just had no choice but to be creative with it. So when I started writing, it was very young, but it wasn't until I was around 14 that I started writing my own songs. I actually could share that we were both being tested for a fatal condition, and we didn't really know what that was going to bring. And I guess I was 14 turning 15 at the time, and it was just really difficult, and, you know, just trying to find something like I knew that God had a hold on my life, and I knew that I could trust in Him for whatever was to come out of the situation, but I just wanted, like, we both wanted something that we could have to just kind of like take our minds off of it and focus on something else. And out of that, our grandfather, he let me borrow one of his old guitars, and he let her borrow his drum set, because she actually plays drums as well. And we just started teaching ourselves, and we started playing, and before I knew it, I was just playing. Like, I always sang in the church, but I started singing, and then I was like, well, I'm singing, I'm playing, why not write my own music? And it was just like,
wow, this is happening here.
Yeah. So I just started taking some of my poetry that I had written as a teenager, and I just started playing guitars to it and playing guitar chords to it and singing it. And before I knew it, I was writing songs and she was writing songs, and that's how it came to be.
Okay, now the genre, the sound, how did that happen?
It's our parents' fault.
Well, that's good.
We seriously, like, never had, like, TVs in our room. Like, when I went in my first year of college, we had a TV in my room, and I was like, what do I do with it? Like, I didn't know how to function, because, like she said, there was always something around the house saying, you know, be creative. You know, seriously, like, are you seriously going to watch these kids and, you know, what they do? No. You know, be yourself. And so I don't even, like, people ask us who our influences are. We had to make a list earlier, and we were like, like I wrote down like Johnny Cash and then like Mahalia Jackson, because that's who I listen to, and it's crazy. It's I guess you know it has to be God, because we listen to so many different kinds of music that we can't really.
Yeah,
we don't really know how to define it.
Even though we grew up for the most part in a small town, like we just like the kind of people we were around through the church that were part of our dad's a pastor, and like the church we were in, and just so many people that we got to meet, just always just being there and being in the community, just getting out, doing community work. Like we just met all kinds of people, and I think part of that comes from like our diversity in our music, just because our whole lives we've been in a diverse community and just diverse situations, diverse worship settings. Like we don't confine ourselves to just one group of people in one kind of environment. Like it's just the world is too big. There are too many children of God to just narrow it down for just one little spot. So I think that's a part of the reason where part of where our diversity comes from, and that's why people are like, where did it come from? And it's like this is the way of life.
I love the statement. There are just too many children of God for you to be confined, and that's the whole thing. The ability to live a kingdom life where we're dealing with the entire body of Christ, the entire genre spectrum of who God is and who He saves, and He so loved the world that He gave His Son for the entire world, for everyone, and you hear that and you see that and you feel that in the music. But now I really need to know, because you guys are so, 17 and 19, so well adjusted, so well spoken, so much of an example to the teens that are out there. Talk to me about your upbringing. Talk to me about your salvation. When did you come to know that Jesus was your own as opposed to your parents? Those kind of things. Where did that all come from? How did it happen?
We were born in California. I always claim that. No, we were born in California, and shortly after I was born, I'm the baby, and our parents moved us all here to Atlanta, where our dad started a church, and so I guess we were kind of like always. We were always raised in the church, but I mean, I don't know. It wasn't really an option. I think I really kind of like found Christ through service, because our parents were never like, so do you want to serve or do you not want to serve? It was just like, oh, so you mean this God guy? He totally sent a son for me. Oh, I got to serve him, Right. And it was just like it was like it was like when a kid starts to walk, because that's what they see. We saw our parents serving, and so that's what we did. And I know I became a Christian at 7. And I was baptized at 9 because I was really, really scared of the water and stuff. But I think I really got a grip on who Christ was after the whole medical situation happened, because I know I really started to doubt God, and I was really embarrassed to tell people, because my parents are pastors, and no preacher's kid at the age of 13 wants to be like, I doubt God. I mean, it was hard for me. I really did feel like He was gone. I didn't feel like He was there, and that's no cool situation to be in. And like I said, I do have a condition called Tourette syndrome, which basically means I make movements and sounds that I can't control. And that was hard for me, and that's still hard for me. So I think when I was about 12, 13, 14 is really when I started to see that God was never going to leave me, and that's when my life verse, which is Psalm 35, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And that's when I kind of got a grip on that. I was like, so we do have to go through things, but that's what makes God God. And that's for me. That's when I really started to seek Christ for myself and realize that it was more than just a childhood upbringing or something.
So now you guys are actually going to different colleges.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. How did that happen, and how do you keep this going with being in 2 different places like that?
Yeah. Well, I am going my second year at Trevecca Nazarene University.
I started at ACC because we both graduated high school when we were 16 years old. So I graduated at 16, and I was living on campus and going to Atlanta Christian College, but I was still very much so involved in my church and in my home life, and I was constantly going back and forth between home and school, and I think that's kind of how we kind of developed this mentality that we were still going to be involved in our church, we were still going to be involved in our family. So it doesn't really matter the distance. One thing is funny is that we've actually have been away from each other for a good few months, because I was actually in England doing mission work and studying abroad at the same time, and she was on tour with a Christian conference for kids that travels throughout the United States. And it was in less than 24 hours when I got off the plane and she was back in Atlanta that we were sitting in the room together playing guitar and making music. And it was like, oh, y'all actually, no, we haven't been around each other.
Yeah,
so it's kind of,
practiced
yeah, it's really interesting how